Good evening and welcome back to another edition of the Conscious Debriefing Show.
You're listening to the Conscious Debriefing Show podcast on Anchor FM.
Alrighty. Welcome back. Okay, last week I did not do a podcast because I was not here. I was in Durban. I had to help with a macro opening in Macro Cornubia, just outside Umhlanga Rocks. What an experience. It was busy. It was chaotic. Yes, everybody just coming for specials, obviously. I mean, we know where this country's economy is going, so people will rush to for specials, as such. It's crazy. I mean, it was hectic. It was a 5-day opening. I mean, all macro openings is 5 days. I'm just glad to be back in Joburg. Yes, really, those 5 days was hectic. But lovely place from Umhlanga Rocks. I've never been there. I mean, I've been to Margate, Cape Town, Bloemfontein, other places in Joburg. But never Umhlanga Rocks. Very, very nice. I took a few photos and I took a video clip of Umhlanga. It was really nice. I enjoyed my stay there. All right, tonight's episode, I'm going to be chatting with Gideon Joubert. I don't know if I said that right. If it's Gideon or Gideon. No, okay. Well, it doesn't matter. He is a member on a group that I'm on, the Renegade Report. I mean, I love listening to the Renegade Report. Jonathan and Ramon, those two, they discuss healthy issues and topics of the happenings in South Africa. Big up to those two. I mean, shout out to those two. Jonathan, Ramon, if you're listening, I love your show. Keep on doing what you're doing. And Ramon, especially to you, what you're doing now with this new political party, with Neo and Kanthan Pillay and the other oaks. Excellent work you guys are doing. And that is why I'm doing this podcast, because 2 weeks ago, I briefly touched it a bit. If some of my listeners would remember, I briefly touched it. We spoke a bit about ZACP. But tonight I want to go in depth. I want to go in depth in what the ZAP stands for, South African Capitalist Party. The purple cow, their logo. What they stand for, and it's about capitalism, okay, as such. Now, we all know people, especially politicians in this country, they speak bad about capitalists. They say capitalism is evil and that. And yes, to a certain extent, I will agree. You get your bad capitalism, but there's also good capitalism. And that's what I want to focus tonight. I want to focus on the good capitalism in South Africa. And yes, there's a lot of it. And you know what? Let's get our guest on the line, and then we will take it from there and we'll talk further. Okay, let me call Gideon quickly. Gideon, how's it?
Hello, Jason.
All right, man. Welcome to my show, the Conscious Debriefing Show. I contacted you like 2 days ago. Thanks. I appreciate it for such short notice and you joining me. I appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you for the invite, Jason. And it's always, it's always nice speaking to somebody who wants to know more and who I can hopefully answer some questions for and at least shed some light on who we are and what we're trying to achieve and what it means to us and hopefully to you as well.
Definitely, man. But more importantly for the people out there, because I mean, yeah, okay, we'll go into it now. Gideon, quick description, the listeners out there. Give them a shout out quickly who you are and what you're about.
Well, by profession, I'm an airline pilot, which is very far removed from politics, pretty much, almost entirely. Okay. And that's been what I've been doing all my life since I left school. I got involved in advocating for farm ownership rights in South Africa about in 2013 to mid-2014 it really started. And I've been associated with Gun Owners of South Africa, as well as I do actually run an advocacy Facebook page and website called paratus.info. So that's Paratus, the old Latin. And I've been basically trying to do a bit of original research, writing opinion pieces, publishing opinion pieces on it. So the firearm rights part as a fundamental part of civil rights as kind of what was important to me and was the corner I was fighting in. And then I became involved with the ZACP before it became the ZACP, before it even had a name. Ramon actually called me up and said, would I be interested in being part of this thing?
Yeah.
And it was very easy to say yes to something before you know what you're getting involved in.
Of course, yeah.
Which now we've saddled up this purple cow and we have to ride the thing. And I don't regret it for a minute. I think I regretted it for about a day or two after the launch, because the full weight of the situation dawned upon me. But this is a wonderful experience to actually make a meaningful difference at a place where one can do it. So that's basically me. That's been my journey. This is who I am. I grew up in Pretoria, and now I live in Cape. Well, I have been living in Cape Town for about 10 years. So I don't know if that makes me a native now or not. But
but you don't support the Blue Bulls, eh?
I'm a Cheetah supporter.
Oh, okay, that's all right. That's all right.
Is that
that's all right.
Acceptable?
No, I'm a Stormers supporter. Because I'm also from Cape Town. I used to live in Kraaifontein and Brackenfell.
Oh, excellent. Okay, no. That's a lot of my friends, and especially the people I actually do shooting sports with, are from there. So,
more world. All right, let's get into it. Okay, I briefly discussed it before I phoned you. Why I've invited you on my show. For the listeners out there to find out a little bit more of what the ZACP stands for. So I've got a quick description here, and I'll quickly want to discuss the 10 principal cores that makes up the ZACP. And people have been asking questions on why they chose the cow for the logo, the purple cow.
Yes.
And we all know that cattle is Africa's most potent symbol of personal wealth,
That's correct. Absolutely.
But I'm going to go through the 10 principal cause. We don't have to really discuss about it because people can thereafter. I'm going to leave a couple of links of the Purple Cow's site on YouTube, and then there's a couple of YouTube references that can give more in-depth detail of the 10 principal cause. So the 10 principal cause go as: number 1 is liberty, number 2 is individual rights before group rights, number 3 is tolerance and absolute protection of freedom of expression. Number 4 is private property rights protected by law. Number 5 is rule of law. Number 6 is right to work. Number 7, the right to be secure on your own property and to defend yourself against intruders. Number 8 is free markets and international free trade based on enlightened self-interest. And number 9 is firearms for self-defense. And the last one is spontaneous order and civil society. There you have it.
It's quite a mouthful.
It is, eh? but of course, the media will give this new political party uphill. Of course, it's to be expected.
We've had a rather interesting time with the media, in the sense of we have publications that really seem to like us a lot. We've had really good press from Alec Hoggs's Biz News publication, which was heartening to see sort of support from that section of the economy and that section of society who really sort of believe we're onto something good. We had an associate of mine, Louis Nell, had a radio interview on Pretoria FM about a week or so ago, where he had the chance to speak to Davie Ruet, the economist. And long story short, Davie actually likes us. He said he thinks our 10 principles are sensible, our outlook on the economy and what should be done is something he agrees with. And that was fantastic press. And then, of course, you get the complete opposite that happens, where you almost get the idea people are writing hit pieces about you personally and about the organization, because that's what we do. So you need thick skin in this gig. It's
definitely I agree.
Yeah. If you're going to let bad press influence you or get you down, especially on social media, there's a lot of people who engage with you and say, we absolutely disagree with this or that of your principles.
Yeah.
And then you go, that's cool. You're allowed to disagree with it. And if it's a deal breaker for you, then you are obviously allowed to vote for somebody else, as is your democratic right. But a lot of people don't like that. They kind of want to force the issue because they need you to change. And when we stick to our principles, because this is why we call them principles, after all, is because they're not variable. They're not things that we negotiate around or that we're willing to compromise on. Then they become upset, and it's exposed a new angle of human nature, and it's been very illuminating from that perspective.
Of course, yeah. Look, social media is the key. A lot of countries out there use social media for new political parties that start up. I'm going to give one example. I'm not to say we are the same, ZAP, as the Brexit. I don't know. Do you remember there was a movie about the Brexit?
I vaguely do, yes.
And how they used social media to gain supporters or gain votes?
Well, social media is an immensely powerful tool. And
Definitely.
If you use it effectively and if you use it correctly, it far exceeds anything that you can achieve in traditional media. Because now imagine this, right? You've got a Facebook group of a couple of thousand people or a page of a couple of thousand people, and that propagates itself through the World Wide Web. And it's free to be accessed by anyone. The hardest part is, or the most difficult part is, you're competing with other things that are vying for people's attention.
Yeah.
So you need something that can grab their attention so that they are willing to spend time to find out what you're about. To achieve the same sort of reach, you would have to advertise in almost all the major daily newspapers in an entire country, plus the regional ones and the once weekly publications. You'd require an advertising budget that's astronomical, and there's no guarantee that your money that you're spending will actually give you the outcome or achieve the outcome that you intend to. Whereas social media, if you're a true grassroots movement where you have a lot of enthusiastic people supporting what you're doing, they become your newspapers, they become your walking billboards, and that's kind of where we've had a lot of traction with this.
Exactly, I agree 100%. Yeah. Look, Kenthan Pillay, in that first video that was released on when was it, the 17th of March?
That's it, yes.
17th of March. Yeah. These are the words that are used, and I absolutely love it. I mean, it's the core. And this was his words. South Africa is a capitalist country. The street vendor is a capitalist. The spaza shop owner is a capitalist. The minibus taxi driver owner is a capitalist. The factory owner is a capitalist. The farm owner is a capitalist. The mining boss is a capitalist. The woman who sets up a creche and a traffic island in Alexandria is a capitalist. And all of us capitalists come together to create jobs and prosperity for all of us. I love it. I absolutely love it.
And it's absolutely true and correct as well. If you think of the sort of Marxist stereotype of what a capitalist is, it's the fat monopoly man with the monocle and the top hat and the three-piece suit smoking the cigar while the factory workers are slaving away in the sort of Dickensian, dystopia where they just get fed gruel and they work 14-hour days and they're underpaid. And that's almost what, through decades of propaganda, has become the view of a capitalist. We've forgotten that an entrepreneur is actually the stereotypical capitalist, the person who's willing to take a risk and to put his money where his mouth is in taking that risk, and then by hard work and innovation and applying himself and all his faculties, or herself actually, let's not be sexist, there are tons of superb female entrepreneurs out there, by applying themselves to this task, they reap the rewards of taking that risk in the first place. Yeah. And that's what true capitalism is it's a stable macroeconomic environment where you respect the right to own property and where it's protected by law, and where people are free from, or rather they are protected from predation, whether it be by criminals from the state, to pursue these free market entrepreneurial interests for the benefit actually of all society. That's really what this is about.
Of course, yes. Yeah. Look, well, there's different types of capitalism out there. You know, Kenthan explains it a lot in everything, all his interviews. You know, you get your good and your bad capitalism. I, for one, capitalism, democracy capitalists.
Yeah.
That could be a bad one because, politicians, there's too much interference. And this is where everyone is giving us the big boo about it because of democracy, capitalism.
And this is the thing that is actually very important to explain to people, is that if the state doesn't have controlling interests in the economy, and if the state isn't in a position to grant favoritism or favorable conditions to select individuals or enterprises or organizations or companies, then the sort of corrupt crony capitalist sort of state and corporate conspiracy against the public can't happen.
Yeah.
So in order for the free market to truly work, is you actually need to curtail the powers of the state and of government so that it doesn't have this privileged position of protecting certain interests that it then gets kickbacks from. This is, after all, what state capture in this country is all about.
Yeah.
Our state-owned enterprises are monopolies. They are protected from competition by acts of parliament. They are staffed by deployed cadres and family members and all sorts of incestuous, nepotistic sort of hangers-on. And they are robbing the public blind. They are robbing the taxpayer blind with no consequences, meaningful consequences. I mean, we hear the same story about how heads will roll before every election, and I've yet to see heads rolling, I'm not trying to be overly cynical, but that's the problem. So for capitalism to flourish the way it's intended to, and the economy to flourish with it, we need to start curtailing the powers of the state.
Of course, this is just the thing. People are seeing capitalism as an evil, and it should not be seen as an evil. Of course, we understand politicians are driving this force and saying it's evil. But I'm going out there on social media and I'm telling people, come on, guys, you're looking at it the wrong picture. Your mindset needs to change. There's good in capitalism. And like Kenton said, we're all capitalism, whether you like it or not. But just by saying that, it's already changing a lot of people's mindsets. I'm sure you'll agree. It's definitely changed my mindset of thinking. And
absolutely. Because just that as you've noticed, just the term capitalism has been so hijacked and so corrupted from what it should mean. And we can have long discussions about Keynesian economic policies and the Great Depression, all these things, but this isn't really what the show is about. Yeah. The show is more about what's happening right now and what the ZACP is about.
Yeah, of course.
And I just keep underlining the same talking point, that is, if we got government out of the picture, where it didn't participate in the economy, because the government shouldn't do anything in the economy that can be better done by the private sector in an atmosphere of competition. Once you get the government out of crowding out the public sector, the private sector, then all these corrupt deals will be a lot less than they are right now.
Of course, yeah. It's the same as values. Values get people more excited, and not manifestos. These values are principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life, and things like ethics, morality, rules of conduct, standards, behavior, and society values. We're losing focus on it, and I'm hoping that the ZACP will bring this values back into society. You hear what I'm saying?
And that actually ties in with our 10th value, which is spontaneous order in civil society, which brings it full circle. And what that means is civil society is a true driver of values through society. Politicians they can make proclamations, they can write laws, they can dictate, but at the end of the day, if society doesn't buy into a law, the law will be disobeyed. If society doesn't believe in the program will not be a success. If society doesn't trust state officials with the offices they are in charge of, then obviously that will also collapse into the mess it is. So spontaneous order in civil society means that these values are propagated through society by people at the grassroots level because they believe in them. And
makes sense, yeah.
We can set the framework, but it's up to everybody else to be an active citizen and do their part to propagate the values. And that's one of the hardest things to sell to people, is with freedom comes responsibility. And that responsibility is that you can't expect government to do things for you which you're actually supposed to do for yourself.
Absolutely. And that's the next thing. People should learn in how to manage money, set budgets and goals. And with this regard, education is key in
Absolutely.
how to manage oneself financially. This is the thing. We need to learn how to financially control our money, because there's a lot of people out there, they get a business and they think, wow, I'm a capitalist now, I'm going to make money. But does he actually put money aside, like, provision? There's a rainy day coming ahead, I need this, I need that. Most people don't know that. They just take the money and they just spend it,
and that comes to people subscribing to a very short-term outlook on life and on commerce, as opposed to thinking longer, well, just medium or longer term, in the sense of, it's almost like the analogy, if it's in Afrikaans we say, as 'n pap reën moet jy skep, and I get that, you have to make the most of today, and you have to grasp every opportunity that comes your way, but that doesn't mean that you can not plan for the future. Otherwise, you will not have anything to put into your enterprise tomorrow. And it's not just a matter of, look, I don't need to tell you anything about our pass rate, about the level of illiteracy and innumeracy among South African school kids.
I'm going to say it's 30%.
Yeah.
It's 30%.
It's terrifying once you start looking at the statistics about where we place internationally and just how many of our kids can actually read, write, and count. And fair enough, school education that doesn't guarantee you're going to be a successful businessman or you're going to be fiscally responsible with your money, but it certainly puts you on a better trajectory than not having that in the first place.
Yeah.
So fixing education is part of our 10 plans as well. I mean, it might not be a perfect plan, but at least it's a place to start.
But it's important.
I hope a very important one, because we can't afford any more lost generations in this country, in my opinion. We have far too many as it is.
Yeah, true. I mean, we are now speaking on this podcast, and we're using all high words in it. And depending the type of people that's listening to us, are they going to engage and understand what we're trying to say? That's also very important. Very, very. But anyway, the next, I got a question here from a member that's a group that I'm on, for political group, and she asked me about social grants.
Yes.
Your child support, older person's grant in aid, the ZACP. How do they feel about social grants being still on board? Yeah.
Social grants is actually almost more like a social evil, because what we're doing is we're holding people
Wait, Gideon. Yeah, no, I lost you there for a while, but I got you back now.
Okay, cool. Where did I break up?
Just as you were starting to explain about social grant.
Okay, so social grants are more of a social evil. We are holding people hostage with a pitiful amount of money they get every month because they have children they have to look after, or they can't find a job or whatever. And it's not sustainable. I mean, you've probably read in the business papers how few taxpayers we have.
Yeah, no,
and
of course, yes.
And we've got nearly 20 million people on welfare. Even if you reversed the figure with the amount of people paying tax versus the amount of people on welfare, it still wouldn't be sustainable in what we call an industrial first world economy. So we don't want to go cold turkey on welfare, because that would cause a huge amount of social upheaval, as you can imagine. But it needs to come to an end. You need to, in phases, start getting people off welfare and getting them in the labor market and getting them busy with something where they're generating an income through their own economic activity that sustains them and that allows them to buy food and send their kids to school and pay for a roof over their heads.
Yeah.
Of course, the ticking time bomb naturally is, are we going to be able to implement reforms and start getting the system going before the fiscus runs out of money and we are forced to go cold turkey anyway, because there's literally nothing left in the coffers to pay grants, because governments get money from taxpayers and they borrow. We're not at a stage where, like in Venezuela, we're printing money yet. And the day you start printing money is the day you inject yourself with hyperinflation, in which people end up with wheelbarrows full of cash that's absolutely worthless. You can't buy bread with it.
I saw a photo on Facebook. Money is just lying in the streets of Venezuela.
Yeah, and it's a couple of years ago we had the exact same thing just north of the border here. I remember doing a flight into Zimbabwe for DHL, and we used to stay over there for a few days. And I came home with a note that said 100 billion Zim dollars on it. That was the value of the note. I still have it somewhere, but I forgot where I put it.
The thing is, what could you buy with that note?
I don't think I could buy a loaf of bread with it, to be honest, in Zimbabwe at the time. This was long ago. This was 2007. And I just, whenever I look at the way that we can't seem to get ourselves off keeping people on welfare, because the current incumbent government, the ANC, is treating it like an achievement. We're celebrating that we have nearly 20 million people on welfare. 20 million people on welfare is a tragedy. It's actually a crime against the citizens that they're being held hostage by the government to this degree. So this has been a very long answer to a very short question, but short answer: social welfare has to go. The challenge is how to make it go.
I wouldn't say it should go for old age and for maybe veteran. You know, the foster child grant to a certain extent, yes. You know, but foster's different, because can you afford it or not? This is a decision that both parents must make in it.
Yeah.
But for like the child support one, I mean, I've seen photos on Facebook where teenagers are bragging their SASO cards. You know, this is where we're going to. You know.
And that's the problem. So one of the things we're doing wrong is we are monetizing each child with a certain amount, whereas a child, there are two ways around it. First is stop creating a financial incentive for people to have kids.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I know that if you're getting 300 Rand, for example, per baby, and you have 10 babies, that 300 Rand proportionally isn't going to mean you're going to be any richer, because you still have 10 babies to look after.
No, exactly.
But a lot of irresponsible parents, which are probably the ones that are maxing out the welfare system in that regard, are the ones that don't think that way. And the other thing is, what we know from the School of Developmental Economics is the more economic opportunities women have, the more career options they have, the fewer children they want, and therefore fertility rates go down. Yeah. So it's a two-pronged approach. On the one hand is you need reform in how you do welfare, and on the other hand, you need to make welfare less attractive in any event, because people would rather have a meaningful job and career and life than sit on welfare anyway.
Of course, yes. Yeah. Hey, in everything we said, yeah, Kenton also used this one theory in one of his podcasts. I think it was on Cliff Central. What was it? Platform that Nando sponsored. I forgot the name.
The burning platform.
The burning platform. And he used this theory, the bumblebee theory. According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way that a bee should be able to fly. Its wings are too small to get its fat little body off the ground. The bee, of course, flies away, because bees don't care what humans think is impossible. And this is the feeling that I'm getting from this party. It's, you know what, everyone's dissing us at the moment, dissing ZACP. They're saying we can't do this and you guys are going for the impossible. But you know what? We can.
I'm 100% with you on this. If you asked me this question 2 weeks ago, I would have had to struggle in how to answer it. But the surge in support. Now, listen, I'm looking at this through a very warped lens, Jason. I'm not privy to statistics or polls or any
enough.
meaning.
I mean, the party's not even a month old yet, so fair enough.
Yeah. But that aside, ignoring all of that, there is definitely we don't have voters. We've got a fan club. We've got a movement. We've got people actually genuinely interested in spreading the message, almost like it's a gospel.
And that's what I like. That's what I like.
The last time I saw people this excited about something was probably the 2010 World Cup.
Well, I'm one of them. I'm excited. I'm one of them. I'm excited. Seriously, big time.
And it's awesome to see. It's for the first time in ages. I feel like I'm busy with something really worthwhile. I can possibly, make a difference. It's out of my hands what happens on the 8th of May. And I'm at peace with whatever the decision is, but I have a good feeling and a positivity about it that I haven't had in a long time.
As long as there's one seat. If we can get one seat. I'm already saying we as if...
yeah, but it is a we, Jason. The thing is, right, so like I'm an MP candidate. I'm not a founder. And then we've got the people on social media we engage with.
Namely me. I'm one of them.
You're one of them. And you see all the purple cow profile pictures pop up everywhere. And
that's the thing. I got a purple cow profile with the link. So when I engage with people, they can obviously go into my profile and the link is automatically there, giving them a brief description of what the party is about. Lovely.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've got all this stuff happening, and I look at it and I go, it's almost like you're in the same boat with a whole bunch of people, and you're rowing this thing together, and that feeling when this thing launched, I felt alone and isolated to a large degree, because you don't know how people are going to handle it. And all of a sudden people started joining up, and they started changing their profile pictures, and they started making noise.
Memes. We started making the weaponized memes.
Weaponized memes, and then you start feeling that there's something bigger behind you. There's something more to this that's bigger than you as an individual person.
Yes,
and
definitely.
I loved that. That gave me such energy and such drive for the thing, because I'm feeding off the energy of other people. And their hopes and their optimism, and I can't thank people enough for that.
Of course, yes, sir. Well, I think we covered it. Is there anything more you want to add?
Well, I obviously have to do the politician thing and say, please vote for us on the 8th of May.
Absolutely. Why not? If not, why not? Yeah.
Because, I'm going to have a very awkward conversation with my boss if we get enough votes for 4 seats, because then my number's up in there as well. But I really would like to ask people to please don't vote for us. Vote for whoever you want to, but please consider based on our principles.
Well, of course, that's the reason why I made this podcast, because then you can share it. I'm going to share it. And we can't always explain ourselves on Facebook and on other social media platforms. Then we can just say, you know what? Go ahead, take this podcast and listen to it. Listen for yourself and judge for yourself how you feel about the party. Right?
Yeah, I think that's the best thing, is that people... would love for people to make up their own minds and decide if we're something they'd like to put their cross next to.
We can't force people. I mean, it must be a free thing. You must feel open about it. Yeah.
No, and I'd like to come to them also with a message of hope and not a message of fear. Not one that says, if you don't vote for us, woe betide you. More one of, if you like what we do, please rather come just because you like us.
Well, this was a positive podcast. I tried my utmost best. My previous podcast, I've been ranked negative, and I made a promise to myself that in this podcast I'm going to remain positive, because we need to be positive.
Look, it gets exhausting, as you know, as a podcast host in the social media sphere, because you are assailed by negativity all the time.
Yes.
And we're all just human, you can only handle so much in the day before it starts getting to you. And it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, Jason, because I could feel you're positive about this.
I love it.
I hope I've been selling my own bit of positivity.
No, you have. You've been awesome. You've been awesome. I'm actually grateful that I invited you to this podcast tonight.
Well, thank you very much for the invite. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you.
All right, listeners out there, that's that. My podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcast. It's also, we're broadcasting on Anchor FM. I will post this link on the various platforms on Facebook, on Twitter and that. Please, and also go into my link, subscribe to this channel for more podcasts. This is not the only one, there's more. And like I told Gideon, I want to have more positive podcasts. Although I know that's not going to happen because there is going to be negative podcasts. There always is. But lovely. Thank you very much, Gideon. Appreciate it.
Jason, thank you. Have a wonderful evening and good night to your listeners. And I look forward to listening to this.
You've been awesome. And that was Gideon. What an awesome guy. I mean, absolutely. I love it. Just to briefly summarize everything what we just said there, and more importantly, there's links. I'm going to leave links. You can go on the Purple Cows webpage. I'll leave a link there, and to their YouTube. There's also other links I'm going to leave about, there's one guy on Facebook, I forgot his name, but I'll put that link on. And he's going to go in depth, each 10 principle core, explaining each of it. And there's this one dude, Carl Plunder. I mean, he made a video. Oh, yes, it was a bit distasteful. Some people liked it, but yeah, that's to be expected, like I said. But capitalism in general, guys, it's not evil as that so many of us think it is. There is good capitalism. And like Kenton said, the street vendor, the guy cutting hair and that, he's a capitalist. He just wants to make money in that. People have been ranting and raving about socialism and land expropriation is going on and we're going to take your land and that. But I don't think people are fully aware of what would happen once socialism really takes over. I mean, the evidence is there. I mean, we've seen what's happened in Zimbabwe. We've seen what's happening in Venezuela at the moment. And not just those countries. There's other countries in Africa where the economy has collapsed. And we've all seen what's happened. But I've done like massive in-depth research on how a liberal thinker thinks, and especially the parties like your ANC and EFF and that. They are feeding people this mindset that the whites have to go. And yes, be warned, you will suffer for another 30 to 40 years. And then after 40 years, maybe we're going to rebuild our economy and we would have our wealth and that, and wealth back. But, there's other rumors going around that when land gets taken, and land is not going to be given, whether it remains to be seen truth or not, everybody knows if you don't get a title deed, then how can you make loans? How can you make loans to profit, profit expansion? How are you going to get that right when you can't make loans? Because you're going to need to make loans to buy this and buy shelving. Let's say you got a supermarket, for example. You need shelving, you need fridges, you need ovens. So you got this land. Maybe you got an empty shell, but there's nothing inside the shell. So you need to go somewhere. You're going to have to approach someone and say, listen, give me a loan. Who's going to give you that loan? You think the government's going to give you the loan? I don't know. You make that decision. Anyway, thank you very, very much. You've heard there, my podcast is available on those various platforms. And I shall see you again in the next episode.